Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video. And once again, we're being linked with a new manager this summer after rumours that David Moyes is not going to be progressing past this, this season. It's another name, it's another Premier League manager. So let's get into who it might be and how this rumour has come about. Yes, as you can see by the title of this video, Marco Silva of Fulham is being linked with the West Ham job for this summer after he has had a very exceptional season at Fulham and completely overperformed how most people thought. Relegation threatened Fulham, now a team that was pushing for Europe and is in the top half of the table. So yeah, it looks like he is now being linked to West Ham, as have about a dozen managers up to this point because of the rumours around David Moyes. So let's look at where the rumour originally came from. Obviously, the Mail Sport reported yesterday in an exclusive that he has a £6 million release clause in his contract, and West Ham are eyeing him as a potential successor to David Moyes. So £6 million release clause. His contract expires in 2024. So there are rumours that he is negotiating a new contract with Fulham at the moment, but £6 million isn't an awful lot. But let me get into kind of telling you why I think that this means that he will not be the West Ham manager. So as you are all aware by now, under the ownership of David Sullivan, that he does not pay release clauses for managers. He will wait until they are available or, they're out of a job. He will never really go into a club and take them away. So this one's a bit difficult because Silva, again, it's saying he has a £6 million release clause. Will we pay that? I don't think so, especially when there's probably managers out there where he'd want to just bring them in or even keep David Moyes. We don't know what's going to happen for the rest of this season around the Conference League, and we should be safe in the Premier League now. But if he wins the Conference League, there's definitely a case and an argument that people will want to keep David Moyes, including the owners. So yeah, the one about Marco Silva is interesting. Let's kind of look at him as a manager, because it would be an interesting appointment, not one personally I would be a massive fan of, but you can't discredit the kind of rise, the fall, and now the revival of Marco Silva. It's been quite an incredible story for him. So, just taking a look at his managerial career, he actually started as a director of football back in Portugal, then became manager, obviously went on to get the Sporting job in 2014. Then he went on to Olympiacos, and then he come over to England. His first job was with Hull. Unfortunately, couldn't keep them in the Premier League. I think he came in in January of 2017 and, couldn't keep them up in that short time frame he was there. He then got the Watford job off the back of that. And again, it was kind of an up and down season with Watford, but as it is with most managers over there, it doesn't last long anyway. He then went into the Everton job. There was quite a bit of expectation around what he could produce there. Again, it just didn't work out for him. He had a little bit of success there. You can see he average 1.38 points per game, which is okay, nothing special. But it's actually been Fulham where he's shown his best. And, he got them promoted from the Championship. Absolutely dominated last season in the second tier. And they came up and people were starting to question whether he would be able to maintain that and play the same football. And he didn't really make too mmany outlandish signings. He brought in the likes of Willian in the summer. People were looking at that thinking, okay, it's kind of another weird signing that they're going to make. They obviously brought in Palhinha, which is an excellent signing. It's a Diop from West Ham. So they did make a few signings, but as we've seen in the past, money from a Championship team does not equate to that initial success of staying up. Nottingham Forest, although they might stay up, are a caveat to that, a kind of opposite caveat to that, because they are showing that all this money they've spent, they're still struggling. So a lot of credit has to go to Marco Silva. One thing I will say is that they have heavily overperformed this season if you look at kind of the expected stats. So the recent dip in form that they've had where they were pushing for kind of top six and they've gone down to mid-table was expected. They've had a few injury issues, but overall he's done a fantastic job this season. He plays that 4-2-3-1. Obviously Pereira's been in the middle. They've had Mitrovic leading the line. A lot of people were saying, will Mitrovic score goals in the Premier League after doing so well in the Championship? And I was actually saying, yeah, he will score goals. And he kind of did prove it this season. And, you could tell from the very first Premier League game back in August when they played Liverpool, drawing 2-2 against them at the time. You could tell that they were here this season. They were going to be serious this season. And Marco Silva does deserve a lot of credit for the kind of football they play. They will be very patient, which was actually to their detriment against West Ham when we sat in and got that 1-0 win. But overall, you can say he has kind of revived his career as a manager, because it didn't really work out at his previous stints in English football. And now he's got this chance at Fulham with no pressure, brings them up from the Championship in excellent fashion. And now they are just an established Premier League team, which is exactly what you wanted to do when you're first back into the Premier League. So he's done an excellent job on the budget that he's got as well. And if you kind of look at his success as a manager overall, you know, you can see the one that stands out really is that win, that Championship win with Fulham. He's obviously been Greek champion as well at Olympiacos, and he did win the Portuguese Cup with Sporting back in 2014-15. So not a huge accolade, but one thing I will mention with Marco Silva, he is still really young. You know, he's only 45 years old. So he kind of fits the model of what modern football is kind of progressing into and what you want from a manager. I mean, look at Mikel Arteta, look at Eddie Howe. These kind of managers coming into the Premier League and really thriving with these new ideas and new innovation and the intensity of the Premier League. I think people and clubs and fans are favouring that kind of appointment where they're a bit younger and they kind of understand a little bit more about the modern ways of thinking. Obviously, there's exceptions to that rule, of course, but I think that's what most fan bases like, and they enjoy that kind of thing. I think it's why Will still got so much attention for his recent run at Stade de Reims. So, yeah, Marco Silva would be an interesting appointment. One I personally wouldn't want to happen, just because I don't think he's proved it for a long enough time. And if we're going to replace David Moyes with Marco Silva, yes, the football will be a bit different, but I personally don't think the results would be that much different, you know, excluding the season we've had so far. I don't think he's the man to progress this football club. And that's what we want to see this summer, is that progression. We don't want to stagnate. We don't want to go backwards. It's a very important summer for West Ham United. So whether Marco Silva will be that man, I'm not so sure, especially with the £6 million release clause that we mentioned at the start, where David Sullivan will not pay that. He will not pay that. So it's interesting. I think it's just another rumour put together kind of based on the fact that his release clause is up and there's going to be a few clubs looking at him and interested in him. And obviously the big topic at the moment is around David Moyes and West Ham. So it almost makes sense that this is coming together. But what would you guys think about Marco Silva? Because it is an interesting topic. It is an interesting appointment if it was to happen. Obviously, again, it didn't work at Everton for him. He did okay at Watford, wasn't really there long. And obviously, Hull, he couldn't make much of a difference in that short period of time with the squad he had. It looks like he's been given a little bit more of a license with this project with Fulham. You know, he brought them up from the Championship. You know, he was smashing teams left, right and centre, lots of 7-0 wins here and there. And yeah, this season they've really established themselves, got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Again, another really good achievement for Fulham. And it just looks like he's got them playing well and getting results. But as I mentioned before, they have heavily overachieved in terms of the expected stats. And defensively, you look at them, they're not amazing. They are they are fragile. It just appears that they've been scoring more goals than they've been conceding. So I think over time, maybe next season, we should maybe take a closer look at Marco Silva. I expect him to extend his contract there. And I think it'll be really interesting for Fulham next year, especially with the summer that they're going to have, and whether he will be able to maintain this kind of over-delivery of performance with the squad he has, or will he bring in more players that will help him, you know, continue this success. So it's an interesting link. Personally, not one I would want to see at West Ham, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would this be something that you would be behind if Marco Silva was to take over at West Ham this summer? So yeah, that's all for today. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and as always, come on you irons.